Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I wanted to touch on it a little bit more in this video because the state of Georgia did something good. Brian Kemp, definitely he's had his weak spots as governor, and that's saying something, but nevertheless, he did something good, and he has done a decent amount of good things regarding election integrity, and I do really give him credit for it. And again, he just signed a new law that requires that absentee ballots will be counted by 8 p.m. on election night. What does this mean? It means that you are not going to have an election where it's going to take 3 days to know the winner of Georgia, and you're going to keep having ballots that are going to be counted, 2 or 3 days later, and it's going to restore a lot of people's faith in the system, which is very, very good. Georgia, maybe they don't count as fast as the state to the south of them, Florida, but they probably are going to count relatively quickly, and this means we're going to know the winner of Georgia within a few hours after the polls close, most likely. And given the way that things are going for Biden right now, and given polling in Georgia, given a lot of metrics that we have, it really seems as if Donald Trump is going to probably take Georgia. And Brian Kemp, even though the two have had their differences, it seems like Brian Kemp is going to try to do everything possible to get Trump across the finish line in the state, possibly in like a, I help you, you help me type of thing. I think he's going to run for Senate in 2026 and is possibly looking for that Trump endorsement, which again, I'm not here to discuss that in this video. We're going to be talking about that, I'm sure, a long time from now. But nevertheless, either way, this is something that's solid because Donald Trump already has such a high floor. And out of the gate, actually, I needed to add main second to Trump's column. There we go. Donald Trump, these are the states that are going to go either which way, most likely. Yes, it's possible on a freakishly good night for Trump, he picks off like Maine. You could talk about New Hampshire, Virginia. But for the sake of just trying to get Trump over the hump, this is like the realistic, map right here. Minnesota might be, questionable, one could say, but still, looking at the map, Donald Trump in North Carolina, given the fact he hasn't lost popularity, given the fact that Biden has and Trump already got the state in 2020 without a doubt, North Carolina, put it in his column, 235. He already has more electoral votes than he had in 2020. And then you have the state of Georgia. If he gets Georgia, he is so close. We talk about the fact that he's just on the doorstep already. And that's where he is. We have almost 6 months to go. But still, you're looking at what's going on, and Democrats are desperate. We're going to be talking about all of it. But first, I have to tell you guys about our good friends over at My Patriot Supply. Because it's no longer a question of if something is coming, it's when. And the only shock will be the what. Your gut, your instincts, the feeling you've had that something disastrous is on the way. All of it's true. But what are you going to do about it now while you still have some control? Your first step is to go to my website, preparewithredeagle.com. Your next step is stocking up on multiple 4-week emergency food kits from My Patriot Supply. You can save $50 per kit for a limited time, and there's no better time than now to buy in bulk. My Patriot Supply is equipped to help you prepare. As the original Patriot company, they've helped over 2 million families prepare. These 4-week kits with ready hour foods provide over 2,000 calories every day, and they're sealed inside a rugged ammo can so they last up to 25 years in storage. You just grab it and go when the crisis comes. So get these kits for $50 off right now at preparewithredeagle.com. That is preparewithredeagle.com, because you can never be too prepared. So we have to talk about this. Obviously, we've covered the Georgia law, but the electoral map as a whole, this is wide open for Donald Trump. It is. We saw the poll in Nebraska's 2nd district that has Trump up a Democrat poll. He's up in Arizona and Nevada by like an average of 4 to 5 points. If he gets all those states, he's the next president. He will win in the House. There will be probably some chaos involved, but still, that is absolutely huge. Pennsylvania as well. Donald Trump leading several polls in Pennsylvania that came out yesterday by an average of 3.5 points. I mean, if he just wins it by 1 vote, that basically would give him the presidency. So I think he's really got to focus in on these 5 states that matter. Yes, you can throw a rally here and there in Minnesota if he wants to test the waters. Minnesota, Virginia. I know he's going to New Jersey to do a rally on Saturday. That's going to be interesting, but still, I don't believe he's going to really win New Jersey. I think, again, he's just testing the waters. We're, a long way to go before the election. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Trump in, 2016 after the convention, he was going to New Mexico, Washington, Connecticut. Like, he was still going all around the country. It's just really what happens, but still, either way, we're not even to the convention. He's testing the waters. We'll see what happens. But I anticipate that even though some of these states like New York, New Jersey are going to get closer, it's going to come down to the big 5, and Minnesota's like the cherry on top bonus prize. Same thing with Nebraska's second, which again, there's question marks. But if the third-party vote share is high enough, is it entirely possible that Donald Trump could go out there and take Nebraska's second? It absolutely is, without a doubt, no question. So it just goes to show how desperate these Democrats are doing, because you look at Biden's job approval rating, according to economists, among true independents, that takes out people who are independent but lean Republican or independent but lean Democrat. He's at 19% approval with those people. And yes, Donald Trump is also underwater in terms of his favorable rating, but keep in mind that's how they view him as a person. Trump's approval rating was always better than his favorable rating, and Biden's favorable rating among these people is not much higher than his job approval. So what does it show you? It shows you that Donald Trump has room to grow, if anything, among some of these undecided voters in some of these polls. He really does. You're looking at this here, and it just shows that Biden's out of touch. He's basically going to these places in Wisconsin telling people, I brought back the economy stronger than ever. But the American people don't see it. You even have former Obama Clinton strategists, people like David Axelrod on CNN. They were talking about how, Biden needs to actually steer clear from this issue, because whenever he talks about Bidenomics, his numbers go down. And it's true. He's really kind of in a really tough spot, because even if he talks about like his so-called accomplishments, people just look at him and they really feel like they're being gaslit. And in many regards, they are indeed being gaslit. You can't win on the economy. You can't obviously win on foreign policy. You can't win on immigration, because that's a total disaster. Even if they try to flip everything on the Republicans, it just doesn't add up, because it's a disingenuous line of attack for one reason or another. So what exactly are they trying to do? Well, they're trying to go out there and try to scare people. And they're trying to go out there and really milk the abortion issue. But again, like I said, Donald Trump's position is leave it up to the states. That's a position that pretty much half the country can agree with, even if they really were not too fond of the Dobbs decision. That's typically what happens when a Supreme Court decision happens. People just kind of learn to come around and accept it. That's kind of how it's always been with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court back in the day, the Warren Court, which was very liberal, when they would make these decisions, you would see a majority of the public initially oppose them, but they do it and it just kind of just gets embedded. I don't think that it's as big of a deal as it was in 2022. And one of the reasons why Republicans failed so badly was because they were putting up some candidates in certain places that were saying no exceptions, like Dixon in Michigan, Mastriano in Pennsylvania, that had brutal down-ballot effects for Republicans. But on top of it, you look at the Senate races, Lindsey Graham coming out, the saboteur, we like to call him, the snake, out of nowhere. We need a 15-week ban, he says, which honestly is not radical. It's a policy, if anything, that would be too radical the other way, even compared to some places in Western Europe. But first of all, the word ban is scary. You don't want to use it. And B, you can do that when you get in power, but when you're running for office in a crucial election year, you have to play your cards right. You have to be smart. Donald Trump is doing that. Other Republicans this cycle did not. People like Tim Scott, Ron DeSantis, even Nikki Haley at some points, even though she kind of gave a very liberal answer on abortion at the first debate, she did critique IVF and said that she wanted to restrict it. And that was before the Alabama thing, too. So it just showcases that Donald Trump on the issue, overall, the best option for Republicans to neutralize it, and it's not working for them. So this is what you have. Now, keep in mind, this is Kamala Harris. This is not Biden, but Joe Biden, if he is to get a second term before the term ends, he would be 86. That's about 2 standard deviations above the average American life expectancy for a man. Now, you could say, well, he's, president, he's going to have top-tier care. Yeah, but I mean, if we're going to be honest, there's a much greater chance that Biden does not survive his second term than he would have survived the first term. That's basically true. And Kamala Harris is basically Joe Biden's heartbeat or whatever way from becoming the next president of the United States. And I think that if Biden does get a second term in a doomsday scenario, right, it seems as if there's probably at least a 30-40% chance, just looking at it objectively, that Harris takes the reins. And I'm somebody who, at the start of Biden's term, believed that he probably would have finished it, and it seems like he is going to. But still, another term, he's getting older, he's clearly in a lot more mental decline than he was to begin with. It's not exactly a good look for him, but you look at this clip. This is Kamala Harris. This is who's a Joe Biden heartbeat away from the presidency. Look at this.
Let me just tell you, you guys are going to have to be ready for this. Ready for certain language. And I said very loudly, ovaries.
Fallopian
and
tubes.
Fallopian tubes, right?
Uterus.
Fibroids.
Thank you.
Okay. This is how they're campaigning, by the way. And basically it just goes to show, A, they're lunatics, and we know that already. And B, like, this is all they have. They're trying to play this card, but even then, it's like Trump is basically saying, I don't want to ban it nationally. Biden is saying, well, we're going to codify it, and can he actually do that? Will he ever have the votes to do it? No, he's not going to even have the Senate. If he does, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to get rid of the filibuster either. So that's basically it. You're looking at this, and these people are just insane. Meanwhile, the top of the ticket, you have Joe Biden here. He's making up stories. He's saying that his one of his teachers was drafted by the Green Bay Packers, and that's why he's like a Packers fan, even though he's like an Eagles fan as well. Like, he's actually an Eagles fan. He grew up in the eastern Pennsylvania, Delaware area, but apparently he was saying he's a Packers fan. Told some story about how his the head teacher or whatever at the Priest was drafted by the Packers. It didn't exist. The guy's last name didn't exist. I think they had drafted a guy with the name that he mentions, but again, that guy served in combat. He was never a teacher. So Biden is just pulling things out of thin air, basically, trying to make up stories, pander to voters, and he's told far more lies at this point than George Santos. He makes George Santos look like Abraham Lincoln in comparison. But just listen to this clip, because that's not really the main point here. This just kind of shows how Biden just freezes up and just reads the directions off the teleprompter and doesn't even realize he's doing it. Look at this.
My theology professor at the Catholic school I went to was a guy named Riley, last name, and he had been drafted by the Green Bay Packers.
So he was never drafted by the Green Bay Packers. The only people named Riley, or the last name of Riley, that were drafted by the Packers, they were never teachers, but Biden apparently is just pulling things out of thin air in that department. But when you look into it a little bit further, it really seems as if Biden is just, again, experiencing decline, because he read last name, like that's in parentheses on the teleprompter. He reads it, just like when he said 4 more years, pause. They're telling him to pause, but he just read pause. I think then he kind of realized he messed up. This time he didn't even realize he messed up. So even by the day, he's slowly getting worse and worse and worse. And the guy's going to have to debate Trump. He's committed to a debate. He can't back off now. And I really feel like Trump in this upcoming debate, usually incumbent presidents don't do well in their first debate. And the first debate's the one that matters the most, especially now because of the higher level of early voting that we're going to see. But B, Trump knows what he has to do now. He just has to let Biden talk, trip over himself, and he's got a lot more material to attack him on now than he did in the second debate against Biden in 2020, which he did objectively come out on top of, and Biden had to come out the next day and do damage control and basically admit Trump won the debate. So there's that, but this is what they have to do. They are lying, they're just falling apart, and they're also just fear-mongering. That's the other thing. The other thing is, he's going to end democracy. Hillary Clinton, just when you think you'll never hear from her again, she pops up out of nowhere. And she claims that Trump is Hitler. Wow, we've never heard that comparison before. It's never really amounted to anything. And that's really what you do when you're losing the argument. You make these outlandish comparisons. It doesn't land. It never landed. And when they act like this, Trump gains. Says that Trump will lock up his political opponents. Well, he should have locked her up, to be honest, if we're going to be completely honest here. But that's beside the point. It's ironic again. Biden's the one trying to do that to Trump. We sanction countries for doing less than half of what Biden and this administration and our Department of Justice is doing to Donald Trump from a political perspective, and saying Trump's going to end all elections as we know it. So you think that an 82, 83-year-old Donald Trump is just going to declare himself dictator? And these are the people that are calling you the conspiracy theorist, by the way. But again, it's just not true. What we know is that Joe Biden wants to give all the people that have come in illegally amnesty, which would be probably by the end of his first term, 10 million people. Probably by the end of his second term, it'd be 20 to 25 million people. That's like a new California that's basically entered almost during the Biden tenure, at least a new Texas or a new Florida. It'd be like the third or fourth largest state. And that's only the illegals that we know and that are the new arrivals. But he wants to give all these people amnesty. That's going to basically end all elections as we know it, because we know who these people are going to vote for. They're all going to vote Democrat. They're all going to vote for the party that's going to give them the largest sum of monetary benefit, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to box the Republican Party out of power. That's what they're trying to do. They're locking up political opponents. They're ending elections as we know it. And you talk about the first comparison here, it's funny because a good share of Biden's own base, or at least his 2020 base, believes that he's funding some sort of genocide in the Middle East. And even the pro-Israel crowd thinks he's doing it too, because they're saying that Hamas is the one that's going to be aiming to commit a genocide. But apparently Trump is Hitler, when both sides of the conflict in the Middle East believe that Joe Biden is going out there and funding some sort of genocide. Either way, whether you say it's hyperbolic or not is irrelevant. The bottom line is that it's all ironic. It's all ironic that this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to go out there and gaslight the American people because they know they have nothing else. It's not like the economy's strong and they can run on the economy. It's not like inflation actually did come down and it was Trump's fault. It went up under Biden. A few months into Biden's tenure is when we started to see the first spikes. We didn't really see any spikes in 2020. So either way, whichever way you want to look at it, Biden owns it, and it's still going up, and the CPI metrics are even going up. GDP's slowing down. This is not a good economy, regardless of what metric you want to cling on to. And the voters of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania take note of it. They don't care about Trump's legal cases. They know it's all bogus. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think that it's really backfired on the Democrats. And you look at it, the economy, immigration, the border crisis, that's huge. I mean, the only problem with trying to attack Biden is there's just so much to attack him on that you're going to be leaving a lot off the table if you do attack him, because, again, you can't possibly attack him on everything he can be attacked for, but he's just that much of a train wreck, and that's the thing that rings true. So when it comes down to it, yeah, Georgia, 251, Trump is knocking on the door. And we'll see what happens. We still have a long way to go. We got the conventions. We'll see what tricks that Biden can try to pull up his sleeve, even though it's not going to be him because his mental capacity is not quite there. It'll be the people around him. And we'll see how Donald Trump is able to kind of be Tefloned on and dance around it. And hopefully he's able to get back in the White House come January. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.